Mission 100, Day 74, Part 1a, reading from the Holy Bible, the Book of Job, chapters 23 through 42. Job's seventh reply. Then Job answered and said, Today especially my complaint is bitter. His hand is heavy upon me in my groanings. Would that I know how to find him, that I might come to his dwelling. I would set out my case before him, fill my mouth with arguments. I would learn the words he would answer me, understand what he would say to me. Would he contend against me with his great power? No, he himself would heed me. There an upright man might argue with him, and I would once and for all be delivered from my judge. But if I go east, he is not there, or west, I cannot perceive him. The north enfolds him, and I cannot catch sight of him. The south hides him, and I cannot see him. Yet he knows my way. If he tested me, I should come forth like gold. If my foot has always walked in his steps, I have kept his way and not turned aside. From the commands of his lips I have not departed. The words of his mouth I have treasured in my heart. But once he decides, who can contradict him? What he desires, that he does. For he will carry out what is appointed for me, and many such things he has in store. Therefore I am terrified before him. When I take thought, I dread him. It is God who has made my heart faint, the Almighty who has terrified me. Yes, would that I had vanished in darkness, hidden by the thick gloom before me. Job chapter 24. Why are times not set by the Almighty, and why do his friends not see his days? People remove landmarks, they steal herds and pasture them. The donkeys of orphans they drive away, they take the widow's ox for a pledge. They force the needy off the road, all the poor of the land are driven into hiding. Like wild donkeys in the wilderness, they go forth to their task of seeking prey. The steppe provides food for their young. They harvest fodder in the field, and glean in the vineyard of the wicked. They pass the night naked without clothing. They have no covering against the cold. They are drenched with rain from the mountains, and for want of shelter they cling to the rock. Orphans are snatched from the breast, infants of the needy are taken in pledge. They go about naked without clothing, and famished they carry the sheaves. Between the rows they press out the oil, they tread the wine presses, yet are thirsty. In the city the dying groan, and the souls of the wounded cry out. Yet God does not treat it as a disgrace. They are rebels against the light. They do not recognize its ways. They do not stay in its paths. When there is no light, the murderer rises to kill the poor and needy. In the night he acts like a thief. The eye of the adulterer watches for the twilight. He says, No eye will see me. He puts a mask over his face. In the dark he breaks into houses. By day they shut themselves in. They do not know the light. Indeed, for all of them morning is deep darkness. Then they recognize the terrors of deep darkness. He is swift on the surface of the water. Their portion in the land is accursed. They do not turn aside by way of the vineyards. Drought and heat snatch away the snow waters. Sheol those who have sinned. May the worm forget him. May the worm find him sweet. May he no longer be remembered, and may wickedness be broken like a tree. May his companion be barren, unable to give birth. May his widow not prosper. He sustains the mighty by his strength. To him who rises without assurance of his life, he gives safety and support, and his eyes are on their ways. They are exalted for a while, and then they are no more. Laid low like everyone else, they are gathered up. Like ears of grain, they shrivel. If this be not so, who can make me a liar and reduce my words to nothing? Job chapter 25. Bildad's third speech. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, Dominion and dread are his, who brings about harmony in his heavens. Is there any numbering of his troops? Yet on which of them does his light not rise? How can anyone be in the right against God? Or how can any born of woman be innocent? Even the moon is not bright, and the stars are not clean in his eyes. How much less a human being who is but a worm, a mortal who is only a maggot? Job chapter 26. Job's reply. Then Job answered and said, What help you give to the powerless, what strength to the feeble arm. How you give counsel to one without wisdom? How profuse is the advice you offer? With whose help have you uttered those words? Whose breath comes forth from you? The shades beneath writhe in terror. The waters and their inhabitants naked before him in Sheol. And Abaddon has no covering. He stretches out Zaphon over the void and suspends the earth over nothing at all. He binds up the waters in his clouds, yet the cloud is not split by their weight. He holds back the appearance of the full moon by spreading his clouds before it. He has marked out a circle on the surface of the deep, as a boundary of light and darkness. The pillars of the heavens tremble and are stunned at his thunderous rebuke. By his power he stilled the sea. By his skill he crushed Rahab. By his wind the heavens were made clear. His hand pierced the fleeting serpent. Lo, these are but the outlines of his ways, and what a whisper of a word we hear of him. Who can comprehend the thunder of his power? Job chapter 27. Job took up his theme again and said, As God lives, who takes away my right, the Almighty who has made my life bitter, so long as I still have breath in me, the breath of God in my nostrils, my lips shall not speak falsehood, nor my tongue utter deceit. Far be it for me to account you right. Till I die, I will not renounce my innocence. My justice I maintain, and I will not relinquish it. My heart does not reproach me for any of my days. Let my enemy be as the wicked, and my adversary as the unjust. For what hope has the impious when he is cut off? When God requires his life, will God then listen to his cry? When distress comes upon him, if he delights in the Almighty and calls upon God constantly, I will teach you what is in God's hand, and the way of the Almighty I will not conceal. Look, you yourselves have all seen it. Why do you spend yourselves in empty words? This is the portion of the wicked with God, the heritage oppressors receive from the Almighty. Though his children be many, the sword awaits them. His descendants shall want for bread. His survivors shall be buried in death. Their widows shall not weep. Though he heap up silver like dust and store away mounds of clothing, what he has stored the righteous shall wear, and the innocent shall divide the silver. He builds his house as of cobwebs, or like a booth put up by a watchman. He lies down a rich man one last time. He opens his eyes, nothing is there. Terrors flood over him like water. At night the tempest carries him off. The east wind seizes him and he is gone. It sweeps him from his place. It hurls itself at him without pity. As he tries to flee from its power, it claps its hands at him and whistles at him from its place. Chapter 20, Job chapter 28. Where is wisdom to be found? There is indeed a mine for silver, and a place for refining gold. Iron is taken from the earth, and copper smelted out of stone. He sets a boundary for the darkness, the farthest confines he explores. He breaks open a shaft far from habitation, unknown to human feet. Suspended far from people they sway. The earth, though out of it comes forth bread, is in fiery upheaval underneath. Its stones are the source of lapis lazuli, and there is gold in its dust, the path no bird of prey knows, nor has the hawk's eye seen it. The proud beasts have not trodden it, nor has the lion gone that way. He sets his hand to the flinty rock and overturns the mountains at their root. He splits channels in the rocks. His eyes behold all that is precious. He dams up the sources of the streams and brings hidden things to light. As for wisdom, where can she be found? Where is the place of understanding? Mortals do not know her path, nor is she to be found in the land of the living. The deep says, She is not in me, and the sea says, She is not in me. Solid gold cannot purchase her, nor can her price be paid with silver. She cannot be bought with gold of Ophir, with precious onyx or lapis lazuli. Gold or crystal cannot equal her, nor can golden vessels be exchanged for her. Neither coral nor crystal should be thought of. The value of wisdom surpasses pearls. Ethiopian topaz does not equal her, nor can she be weighed out for pure gold. As for wisdom, where does she come from? Where is the place of understanding? She is hidden from the eyes of every living thing. Even from the birds of the air she is concealed. Abaddon and Death say, only by rumor have we heard of her. But God understands the way to her. It is He who knows her place. For He beholds the ends of the earth and sees all that is under the heavens. When He weighed out the wind and measured out the waters, when He made a rule for the rain and a path for the thunderbolts, then He saw wisdom and appraised her, established her and searched her out. And to mortals He said, see, the fear of the Lord is wisdom, and avoiding evil is understanding. Job chapter 29. Job's final summary of his cause. Job took up his theme again and said, oh, that I were as in the months past, as in the days when God watched over me, while He kept His lamp shining above my head, and by His light I walked through darkness, as I was in my flourishing days, when God sheltered my tent. When the Almighty was still with me, and my children were round about me, when my footsteps were bathed in cream, and the rock flowed with streams of oil. Whenever I went out to the gate of the city and took my seat in the square, the young men saw me and withdrew, and the elders rose up and stood. Officials refrained from speaking and covered their mouths with their hands. The voice of the princes was silenced, and their tongues stuck to the roofs of their mouths. The ear that heard blessed me, the eye that saw acclaimed me, for I rescued the poor who cried out for help, the orphans and the unassisted. The blessing of those in extremity came upon me, and the heart of the widow I made joyful. I wore my righteousness like a garment. Justice was my robe and my turban. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame was I. I was a father to the poor. The complaint of the stranger I pursued, and I broke the jaws of the wicked man. From his teeth I forced the prey. I said, in my own nest I shall grow old. I shall multiply years like the phoenix. My root is spread out to the waters. The dew rests by night on my branches. My glory is fresh within me, and my bow is renewed in my hand. For me they listened and waited. They were silent for my counsel. Once I spoke, they said no more, but I received my pronouncement drop by drop. They waited for me as for the rain. They drank in my words like the spring rains. When I smiled on them, they could not believe it. They would not let the light of my face be dimmed. I decided their course and sat at their head. I lived like a king among the troops, like one who comforts mourners. Job chapter 30. But now they hold me in derision, who are younger than I, whose fathers I should have disdained, to rank with the dogs of my flock. Such strength as they had meant nothing to me. Their vigor had perished in want and emaciating hunger. They fled to the parched lands, to the desolate wasteland by night. They plucked saltwort and shrubs. The roots of the broom plant were their food. They were banished from the community with an outcry like that against a thief, to dwell on the slopes of the wadis, in caves of sand and stone. Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they huddled together. Irresponsible of no account, they were driven out of the land. Yet now they sing of me in mockery. I have become a byword among them. They abhor me, they stand aloof, they do not hesitate to spit in my face, because he has loosened my bowstring and afflicted me. They have thrown off restraint in my presence. On my right the young rabble rise up. They trip my feet, they build their approaches for my ruin. They tear up my path, they promote my ruin. No helper is there against them. As through a wide breach they advance. Amid the uproar they come on in waves. Terrors roll over me, my dignity is driven off like the wind, and my well-being vanishes like a cloud. And now my life ebbs away from me. Days of affliction have taken hold of me. At night he pierces my bones. My sinews have no rest. With great difficulty I change my clothes. The collar of my tunic fits around my waist. He has cast me into the mire. I have become like dust and ashes. I cry to you, but you do not answer me. I stand, but you take no notice. You have turned into my tormentor, and with your strong hand you attacked me. You raise me up and drive me before the wind. I am tossed about by the tempest. Indeed, I know that you will return me to death, to the house destined for everyone alive. Yet should not a hand be held out to help a wretched person in distress? Did I not weep for the hardships of others? Was not my soul grieved for the poor? Yet when I looked for good, evil came. When I expected light, darkness came. My inward paths seethe and will not be stilled. Days of affliction have overtaken me. I go about in gloom without the sun. I rise in the assembly and cry for help. I have become a brother to jackals, a companion to ostriches. My blackened skin falls away from me. My very frame is scorched by the heat. My lyre is turned to mourning, and my red pipe to the sounds of weeping. Job chapter 31. I made a covenant with my eyes not to gaze upon a virgin. What portion comes from God above? What heritage from the Almighty on high? Is it not calamity for the unrighteous and woe for evildoers? Does he not see my ways and number all my steps? If I have walked in falsehood and my foot has hastened to deceit, let God weigh me in the scales of justice. Thus will he know my innocence. If my steps have turned out of the way and my heart has followed my eyes, or any stain clings to my hands, then may I sow but another eat, and may my produce be rooted up. If my heart has been enticed toward a woman, and I have lain in wait at my neighbor's door, then may my wife grind for another, and may others kneel over her. For that would be heinous, a crime to be condemned, a fire that would consume down to Abaddon till it uprooted all my crops. Had I refused justice to my manservant or to my maidservant when they had a complaint against me, what then should I do when God rises up? What could I answer when he demands an account? Did not he who made me in the belly make him? Did not the same one fashioned us in the womb? If I have denied anything that the poor desired, or allowed the eyes of the widow to languish, while I ate my portion alone with no share in it for the fatherless, though like a father he has reared me from my youth, guiding me even from my mother's womb. If I have seen a wanderer without clothing, or a poor man without covering, whose limbs have not blessed me when warm with the fleece of my shepherd, if I have raised my hand against the innocent, because I saw that I had supporters at the gate, then may my arm fall from the shoulder, my forearm be broken at the elbow, for I dread calamity from God, and his majesty will overpower me. Had I put my trust in gold, or called fine gold my security, or had I rejoiced that my wealth was great, or that my hand had acquired abundance, had I looked upon the light as it shone, or the moon in the splendor of its progress, and had my heart been secretly enticed to blow them a kiss with my hand, this too would be a crime for condemnation, for I should have denied God above. Had I rejoiced at the destruction of my enemy, or exulted when evil came upon him, even though I had not allowed my mouth to sin by invoking a curse against his life, had not the men of my tent exclaimed, who has not been filled with his meat? No stranger lodged in the street, for I opened my door to wayfarers. Had I, all too human, hidden my sins and buried my guilt in my bosom, because I feared the great multitude, and the scorn of the clans terrified me, then I should have remained silent and not come out of doors. Oh, that I had one to hear my case! Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Let my accuser write out his indictment. Surely I should wear it on my shoulder, or put it on me like a diadem. Of all my steps I should give him an account. Like a prince I should present myself before him. If my hand has cried out against me till its furrows wept together, if I have eaten its strength without payment and grieved the hearts of its tenants, then let the thorns grow instead of wheat, and stinkweed instead of barley. The words of Jacob are ended. Job chapter 32. Then the three men ceased to answer Job, because in his own eyes he was in the right. But the anger of Elihu, son of Barashel the Buzite, of the clan of Ram, was kindled. He was angry with Job for considering himself rather than God to be in the right. He was angry also with the three friends, because they had not found a good answer and had not condemned Job. But since these men were older than he, Elihu bided his time before addressing Job. Then, however, Elihu saw that there was no reply in the mouths of the three men. His wrath was inflamed. So Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite, answered and said, I am young and you are very old. Therefore I held back and was afraid to declare to you my knowledge. I thought days should speak and many years teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in human beings, the breath of the Almighty, that gives them understanding. It is not those of many days who are wise, nor the aged who understand the right. Therefore I say, listen to me. I also will declare my knowledge. Behold, I have waited for your words, have given ear to your arguments as you searched out what to say. Yes, I followed you attentively, and look, none of you has convicted Jacob. Not one could refute his statements. So do not say we have met wisdom. God can vanquish him, but no mortal. For had he addressed his words to me, I would not then have answered him with your words. They are dismayed, they make no more reply, words fail them. Must I wait now that they speak no more and have ceased to make reply? I too will speak my part, I also will declare my knowledge. For I am full of words, the spirit within me compels me. My belly is like unopened wine, like wineskins ready to burst. Let me speak and obtain relief. Let me open my lips and reply. I would not be partial to anyone, nor give flattering titles to any, for I know nothing of flattery. If I did, my Maker would soon